Welcome back to The Clean Truth by Ruby.
It's great to be back.
Yeah, and welcome to today's deep dive. This is actually our 20th episode.
Wow, 20 already.
I know, time flies. And this one is titled, Descaling Mistakes Most People Make and How to Avoid Them.
A very necessary topic.
Oh, completely. So picture this. It is early morning.
The best time of day.
Right. You are stumbling into the kitchen, the sun hasn't quite come up yet, and you are craving that very first perfectly brewed cup of coffee.
We have all been there.
You rely on your coffee maker to execute its one job flawlessly, extracting the exact right notes from your favorite roast to really set the tone for your entire day.
Because for those of us who care about our coffee, that machine isn't just an appliance.
No, it is a serious investment in your daily routine. But what if the equipment you trust to deliver that perfect extraction is quietly harboring a rather unpleasant biological and geological secret?
That's the unsettling part.
It really is. So today we are looking at a comprehensive breakdown from the cleaning professionals at Molly Maid, alongside some pretty sobering data from NSF International to explore the hidden mechanics of coffee maker maintenance.
Which is so crucial.
Our mission here is to protect your investment, optimize your extraction, and frankly, rescue your morning cup from hidden contaminants. Okay, let's unpack this, because the reality of what is actually happening inside the internal plumbing of your coffee machine requires a massive shift in perspective.
It really does require a shift. I mean, it is so tempting to view a coffee maker as a sterile, straightforward heating device, right?
Yeah, water goes in, gets boiled, and filters through the grounds. Simple.
Exactly. But mechanically and biologically, that is just not an accurate picture. You have to reframe your coffee maker as a highly active microenvironment.
A microenvironment. I like that phrasing.
Yeah, because you are dealing with the complex chemistry of the water you use, and that's interacting constantly with the biology of bacteria and mold spores that naturally circulate in our home.
Right, those spores are everywhere.
They are. And by combining stagnant water, ambient room temperature, and internal residual moisture, you are essentially cultivating a biodome right there on your countertop.
And the data backs up that biodome theory in a way that is, frankly, a little unsettling.
Just a little.
Okay, very unsettling. The NSF International study we are looking at analyzed the daily items we interact with in a typical household.
And what did they find?
They found that your coffee maker, right alongside the kitchen sponge, sits firmly in the top 10 germiest items in a home.
Top 10.
Top 10. We spend so much energy sanitizing cutting boards and, wiping down bathroom surfaces, yet the machine responsible for our morning beverage is harboring massive microbial colonies.
It's wild when you think about it.
It is. The study actually noted that 50% of homes have a coffee maker with a measurable, thriving buildup of yeast and mold.
50%.
Yes, and specifically congregating in the water reservoir.
What's fascinating here is the specific biology of that reservoir environment.
Right, because it's not just a bucket.
Exactly. It isn't just a passive holding tank. It is an unsealed pool of water sitting at room temperature, often exposed to sunlight, with constant access to airborne spores.
Which is the perfect recipe for mold.
It really is.
Yeah.
And those trace biological elements don't just stay in the tank. They are carried forward through the entire system. Every single drop of water used to extract the flavor from your grounds passes through that microbial colony first.
But wait, let me play devil's advocate for a second here.
Sure.
Doesn't the boiling water just nuke all that yeast and mold before it ever hits my cup? I mean, if it passes through the heating element, shouldn't we end up with a clinically sterile brew anyway?
That is such a common misconception, and it really comes down to the thermodynamics of how these machines actually operate.
Okay, break that down for us.
So, a standard drip coffee maker does not hold water at a rolling boil of 212 degrees Fahrenheit.
It doesn't.
No. To properly extract coffee without burning it, the machine is calibrated to heat water to somewhere between 195 and 205 degrees.
Okay, so a bit lower than boiling.
Right. And while that is certainly hot, the water only flashes to that temperature for a brief moment as it passes through the heating tube.
So it's not boiling long enough to sanitize.
Exactly. It is not a sustained, pressurized sterilization cycle. More importantly, the reservoir itself remains completely unaffected by that heat.
Oh, true. The tank stays cold.
So the spores are thriving in the cold tank, and organic biofilms can coat the internal tubing before the water ever reaches the thermal block.
Yuck.
By the time it hits your grounds, those contaminants have already compromised the water quality. It imparts this musty, muddy flavor profile to your cup long before the roast itself has a chance to shine.
Which perfectly explains why sometimes you switch to a premium bag of beans, but the coffee still tastes flat or just bitter.
You assume it is the roast, but it's the machine.
You assume it is the roast, but it is actually the biofilm in your machine.
Yep.
Yeah, but biology is really only half the battle here.
That's right.
The other major variable we need to analyze is geological. We have to talk about scale.
Yes, lime scale.
The Molly Maid Guide emphasizes a distinct difference between really cleaning a coffee pot and actively descaling the internal components.
There is a huge difference.
Rinsing the carafe and wiping the hot plate addresses surface oils, but it does absolutely nothing to combat the thermodynamics of limescale.
Precisely. To understand scale, we have to look at the dissolved solids in your tap water.
Right, the hard water issue.
Hard water contains high concentrations of calcium and magnesium ions. When that water is drawn from the reservoir and flashes to steam inside the machine's internal aluminum or copper heating tube, a chemical precipitation occurs.
Meaning the minerals separate from the water.
Yes, the water moves forward, but calcium carbonate, which is essentially limestone, is left behind, crystallizing right on the walls of the tube.
And that buildup fundamentally alters how the machine functions,
Right.
Because scale is an insulator.
It is a phenomenal insulator. As those microscopic stalactites of calcium carbonate grow thicker inside the heating element, they form a barrier between the heat source and the water.
So the machine has to work harder.
Much harder. The heating element has to draw more current and work substantially harder to penetrate that layer of limestone. This puts immense stress on the internal thermal fuses, which can lead to premature failure of the machine.
It literally burns itself out.
Exactly. But from a culinary perspective, the immediate tragedy is that the water never reaches that optimal 195 degrees.
Because the heat can't get through the limestone.
Right. It might only hit 180 degrees, and when water that cold hits your coffee grounds, it fails to extract the rich, sweet compounds.
Leaving you with what?
Leaving you with an under-extracted, sharply sour cup of coffee.
I can actually speak to this from personal experience. I used to completely ignore the descaling indicator light on my old machine.
A lot of people do.
I assumed it was just on a timer to annoy me. Until one morning, the machine started loudly sputtering, spitting out half bursts of steam, and it took 20 minutes to brew a single pot.
The classic death rattle.
It was. And the guide explains exactly why that happens. The internal pressure physically changes because those calcium deposits have grown so thick they are choking the tiny water pathways.
And for older machines without a warning light.
For those, you have to look for a chalky white crust around the water spout. That is literally the limestone migrating out of the internal plumbing.
Yeah, and waiting for the machine to sputter or waiting to see a physical crust means the equipment is already suffocating.
It's way too late at that point.
It is. If you are brewing daily, the source material recommends a proactive descaling protocol at least once a month.
Once a month. That frequently.
Yes, this prevents the insulating layer from forming and simultaneously flushes out the biological biofilms we discussed earlier.
Which brings us to a really important point. Because many people know they should descale, but the way they do it is often incorrect.
Oh, absolutely. The frequency of maintenance naturally leads to a debate about methodology.
Right, the great debate. The use of common household acids versus engineered commercial descalers. And this is where we see those common descaling mistakes that most people make.
Relying on household vinegar is definitely the big one.
Yes, let's break down that classic DIY protocol using white vinegar, because it is by far the most common advice out there. But it's also where people run into so many issues.
It is very common, but fraught with problems.
So the process is supposedly straightforward. First, you empty the system completely, disposing of old grounds in the compost, not the sink, to protect your plumbing.
Good tip.
Then you create a 50-50 solution in the reservoir, half white vinegar, half water.
And that specific ratio is critical if you are going to try this. You need the concentration of acetic acid to be high enough to react with the alkaline calcium carbonate, breaking it down into a water-soluble compound called calcium acetate.
Right.
But you also need enough water volume to safely carry that solution through the pump without cavitation.
Exactly. And here's the step most people skip with the vinegar method. You start the brew cycle, but you pause it exactly halfway through. You shut the machine off and let that hot acid solution sit inside the internal plumbing for a full hour.
You have to give the chemical reaction time to actually dissolve the limestone.
Right. After the hour, you finish the cycle, dump the carafe, and then flush the system with 3 consecutive cycles of fresh water.
And that flushing is where another big mistake happens.
Oh, I cannot stress the flushing enough. People fail to rinse the machine properly after cleaning. I once rushed the process, only ran 1 cycle of water, and my next batch of high-end Ethiopian beans tasted exactly like a hot vinaigrette. It was
Oh.
incredibly volatile, which brings us to why vinegar is often not ideal for coffee machines.
Your experience perfectly highlights the primary drawback of using vinegar, its volatility. White vinegar relies on acetic acid.
Okay.
Acetic acid has a relatively high vapor pressure, meaning when it is subjected to the heat of the coffee maker, it easily vaporizes and aerosolizes.
Which is why your kitchen smells terrible when you do it.
Exactly. And it is why those vaporized particles stubbornly cling to the internal plastics and silicone tubing, requiring extensive flushing to eliminate the odor. It leaves strong odors and residue.
And incomplete mineral removal too, right? Compared to purpose-built descalers.
Yes, it's just not as efficient at breaking down the scale.
But the lingering smell and the poor performance isn't even the biggest risk mentioned in the text. There is a serious caveat regarding your machine's warranty.
This is a huge point.
The guide points out that many high-end coffee maker manufacturers will actively refuse to honor a warranty claim if they determine you have been exclusively using vinegar to descale.
Because of the damage it causes.
Right. For anyone who has invested hundreds of dollars in a precision brewer, saving $2 on vinegar could be a catastrophic trade-off if the heating element fails.
It is a vital engineering consideration. Manufacturers utilize specific elastomeric seals, rubber gaskets, and silicone tubing to route the water.
And vinegar attacks those.
Yes. Prolonged, repeated exposure to hot acetic acid can embrittle and degrade those specific polymers over time, leading to internal leaks.
Wow.
This is exactly why proper descaling solutions are formulated to break down line scale effectively while being easier to rinse and much safer for internal components.
Which connects perfectly to what we do here with Ruby's coffee descaler.
Absolutely.
We emphasize the importance of using the right product. Ruby's coffee descaler is purpose-built for this exact microenvironment.
Right. Those specialized solutions, like the one Ruby offers, typically utilize different acids like sulfamic or citric blends that are chemically formulated to be highly aggressive on calcium carbonate, but entirely inert when they come into contact with rubber and silicone.
So they protect the internal geometry of the machine while clearing the scale.
Exactly. It's about keeping the machine working efficiently and producing better tasting coffee without the lingering odors or the risk of voiding your warranty.
It just makes so much more sense than dumping salad dressing into your expensive appliance.
It really does.
But here's where it gets really interesting. Because the Molly Maid source also provides some natural alternative household DIY methods if you're out of a proper descaler and need a quick fix for different issues.
Right. There are other tools in the toolkit.
Let's look at baking soda or sodium bicarbonate.
Baking soda is a great tool, but we need to clarify its specific utility. Because sodium bicarbonate is a base, not an acid, it will not effectively dissolve heavy limescale.
Okay, so it's not a descaler.
No.
Yeah.
However, it is exceptional at saponification, the process of breaking down fats and oils.
And coffee beans are full of lipids.
Exactly. Over time, those oils coat the inside of your carafe and brew basket, and they go rancid, imparting a bitter taste.
So baking soda is your degreaser.
Precisely.
The protocol is simple. You pour warm water into the reservoir, dissolve exactly 1/4 cup of baking soda into it, and run a cycle. Discard the murky water, then flush with clean cycles.
And because it isn't an acid, there is zero lingering aftertaste.
That's a nice bonus. You can also make a thick paste with baking soda and water to physically buff the glass carafe, lifting those stubborn, baked-on coffee stains. It restores the glass to a perfect shine.
It works wonders on glass.
But if baking soda handles the oils, what is the DIY alternative for the actual mineral scale if you don't have a commercial descaler on hand?
Yeah.
That brings us to citric acid.
Yes.
The guide recommends mixing 2 quarts of water with 1 teaspoon of citric acid powder, running it through the system, and flushing.
From a chemical standpoint, citric acid is arguably the superior DIY descaler compared to vinegar.
Why is that?
It provides the necessary hydrogen ions to break down the calcium carbonate just as effectively. But the crucial distinction lies in its physical properties. Citric acid is non-volatile.
Non-volatile,
Unlike vinegar, it does not evaporate or aerosolize when subjected to high temperatures.
meaning you don't end up inhaling hot acid vapor in your kitchen.
Exactly. It stays in the aqueous solution as it moves through the machine. Because it doesn't vaporize, it doesn't permeate the internal plastics with lingering odors.
That makes so much sense.
It rinses completely clean much faster, making it a highly effective, odor-free alternative that protects the flavor profile of your subsequent brews.
That is a brilliant optimization. You get the decalcifying power without the volatile aromatics.
Right.
Now, before we conclude, the source offers one final, incredibly practical strategy. We have explored all these methods to strip the minerals out of the machine, but the ultimate hack is simply not putting the minerals in there to begin with.
The preventative approach.
Exactly. The guide suggests a proactive switch. Start brewing your coffee using filtered or bottled water instead of straight tap water.
It's so simple.
It is. If you physically remove the dissolved calcium and magnesium before the water enters the reservoir, the scale simply cannot form.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it reinforces how we should approach the equipment we value. Relying on an expensive precision machine while feeding it hard, unfiltered water is counterproductive.
It really is.
Maintaining these devices isn't merely about ticking off a monthly chore. It is about preserving the engineering tolerances of the machine, guaranteeing the purity of the ingredients we ingest, and ultimately honoring the quality of the coffee itself. Proactive care, like using the right descaler and filtered water, ensures the equipment functions exactly as the engineers intended.
So what does this all mean? It means your morning ritual demands a bit more respect than a cursory rinse of the carafe.
Absolutely.
By taking the time to understand the thermodynamics of your machine, you can make informed choices. Let's take a closer look at the most common descaling mistakes and how to avoid them so your coffee machine keeps performing at its best.
Right. Avoiding vinegar, descaling frequently enough, and using the right solutions.
Whether you opt for the engineered precision of Ruby's commercial descaler, the non-volatile power of citric acid, or the oil-lifting properties of baking soda, you are actively protecting your investment.
You are.
You prevent the heating element from burning out, you ensure your water reaches the perfect extraction temperature, and you banish those hidden microbial biofilms that degrade your cup. You are left with nothing but the pure, unadulterated flavor of the roast.
Which is all we really want in the morning.
Exactly. We want to thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the surprisingly complex mechanics of coffee equipment maintenance.
And as we wrap up, I want to leave you with a final thought to consider.
Go for it.
Today, we've examined the rapid, aggressive damage that dissolved minerals can inflict on the small heating element of a countertop coffee maker in just a few weeks.
It happens fast.
It does. Now, consider the other unseen, heavy-duty appliances in your home that process massive volumes of tap water every single day.
Oh, but
Think about the intricate valves inside your dishwasher, the high-pressure hoses behind your washing machine, or the internal baffles of your shower head.
that is a scary thought.
If hard water acts as a crippling insulator in a simple drip brewer, what kind of unseen geological buildup is silently encasing the critical infrastructure of your home right now?